Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for August 16th through 22nd. This week I read 2 books, I watched 4 shows, I watched 1 movie, and I listened to 2 books. First this week I finished Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. This is a graphic memoir that has to do with her time growing up with her father and her moving into college and realizing she's queer, and then soon after he dies and she realizes that he was also queer. Overall, this was a remarkable story, but was also incredibly dense. There were so many details on every single page, to the point where I just started skipping some of the panels that I knew I could get away with not reading completely. For instance, this has a lot of literary references because he taught literature. I believe that she has an English degree of some persuasion, so obviously I love my literature references, but when you're getting to the point where you're reading dictionary entries, that's just too much for me. I did enjoy that she found parallels between the plays her mother was in and what her father was teaching and what she was reading and that type of thing. But for me personally, it could have been scaled back just a little bit on the page. That being said, I did enjoy reading this book. There were a lot of things that went on with her family that were fascinating, and I enjoyed getting to know that history. This week I also read You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I buddy read this with my friend Rogan, so thank you again Rogan for that because this was such a fun week. You Should See Me in a Crown is a YA contemporary centering this girl named Liz who is a senior in high school, and she realizes that she's not going to get the scholarship she really needs to go to the school of her dreams. However, in her town, winning prom queen comes with a scholarship. The thing is, her town is really into prom. Like, Texas loves football. This town loves prom. She definitely has the highest grades because she's been working her butt off, so that does help her in the standings for prom, but she's also a wallflower. She has her small group of friends and that's pretty much who she's stuck to, so it's going to be an uphill battle. I really like this one because the characters were complex. You could see why people were doing certain things and how it ended up hurting people even though that was not their intention. Liz also has a friend who seems really solid but then at the same time is doing some very toxic things, so I loved how that was incorporated into this story. And then of course this boy from her past is coming back into her life at the same time she's getting a crush on the new girl at school. I enjoyed the way that this talked about the outdated heteronormative nonsense that is prom. And this was fun to look at as a Canadian because we don't have prom. We have something similar called grad, but nobody cares about it to this extent. On to what I watched this week. We finished the first season of Ozark and went into the second season. It picked up exactly where it left off, and there are more dangerous things happening because this show wouldn't be this show without danger all the time. We do have some new characters being introduced, or some new characters kind of moving around a little bit, so there's lots of moving pieces, but I'm still enjoying it. We are still in the 6th season of Scandal, and one of the most remarkable episodes happened recently during our viewing this week, and I think we've finally gotten to the point where I honestly can't remember what happens next, and that's very exciting for me personally. Of course, I stayed up to date with Canada's Drag Race. This episode was fantastic because it was the makeover episode. There tends to be one every season where they collect a group of insert type of people here, bring them in, and the queens have to make them over into their drag sisters. This time it was 5 people who have moved to Canada via the Rainbow Railway, which is an organization that helps get people out of homophobic, dangerous countries and into more accepting countries such as Canada. This is always a very fun challenge because you have no idea what somebody's going to look like in drag, so it's always labor intensive, but there's always these stories of the people that they're putting into drag. 2 of the people were actually husbands, which was adorable, and they had a great rivalry between them, which was so on brand for Drag Race. And then finally this week we watched a bunch of episodes of Parks and Rec because my partner's never seen it before. This is probably the 3rd or 4th time I'm watching it. I think it's about the same for my roommate, but Chad has never seen it before, so we're making him watch it, and it is very funny. It is so good, and it's also funny to go back to this and be like, oh, well, this was 2009. They still have flip phones. This is the before times. If you've never seen the show before, I'm not going to ruin it by trying to explain it to you. Just go watch it. This week we also revisited The Mummy, which is something I haven't really watched properly in a while, and I can't say I watched it properly this time because we did kind of talk over it and get up and get drinks and that type of thing, but it was fun to revisit just because it stands up pretty well, even though there's definitely points where you're like, no, I hate this part because feminism. I actually don't know if I saw any of the sequels to this movie, but I see how it can be left open-ish. I'm not planning on continuing anytime soon, but it's a fun thing to put on in the background. This week in preparation for a video on somebody else's channel, I read Number the Stars by Lowry. This is a book that I had never heard of before, and basically he said, hey, this is really short, this is something that we could end up talking about together, want to read it? I went, the library has it? I will do it. This is actually the first time that I actually got out the audiobook and the ebook and read the ebook while the audiobook was going on, just to make sure that I'd soak in a bunch of the details, because if I feel like I'm going to have to talk about something on the fly, I kind of want to make sure I know what I'm talking about. This was filled with a lot of World War II history that I did not know about. It takes place in Denmark, and it's all about the Nazi occupation there and what was happening when they started to try to round up Jewish people, and how Denmark basically stood and got 7,000 Jewish people out of Denmark so they wouldn't be rounded up. There's also an author's note at the end being like, these certain things might seem like they were just something an author would write about to fix a plot line or that type of thing, but they actually happened in real life. And because there's spoilers specifically for the book, I'm not going to say what they were here, but they were very interesting, and I just really enjoyed this book. I felt very hesitant about going in and reading a book about Nazis right now, but this was definitely worth my time. This week I also listened to 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. This is about a man who works at a bookstore. He's a part owner of the bookstore. It's a mystery murder thriller type of bookstore in Boston, and one day somebody from the FBI shows up and says, hey, do you remember writing this list of 8 perfect murders back in 2004? And he's kind of like, that was a long time ago, but yeah, that's vaguely familiar. And she's like, I'm running a theory that somebody is murdering people based on the list you made. If you know me, you know I love bibliophilic books, so the fact that this took place a lot in a bookstore and had to do with certain plots of certain books, even though I haven't read them, which is the only little part. I kind of wish I'd read all of the books on that list before reading this, because I feel like there are some spoilers here and there. But at the same time, I wasn't about to pick up the ABC Murders by Agatha Christie anytime soon, so I'm okay with knowing how that one ended. This one had some definite twists and turns, one that I really appreciated, and it kind of just throws the whole narrative on its head and you have to just kind of go with it, which was neat. And I didn't see who the killer was coming, which is always a great thing. I also try not to specifically look for it, but if I kind of pick up on all the little clues and get it by the end, I feel really good about myself, but if I don't get it, I feel kind of even better about the book, if that makes any sense. If you like murder mysteries and intrigue and bibliophilic locations and wintertime in Boston, then this is a book to pick up. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel at this time, so I recently set up a Ko-fi account, which is like a digital tipping service, like buying me a cup of coffee. That is linked down below, as well as my PayPal, as well as my Amazon wishlist in case you want to send me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!